Welcome back to Tabletop Titans. Thank you so much for joining us on this lovely Thursday afternoon. Today we're here to discuss something that is very near and dear to everyone's heart here, which is the process of making your own miniatures game. We're going to have a great discussion over the next hour or so, kind of talking about our own experience and experiences of others, and of course discussing with chat, taking questions, and just kind of sharing our journey thus far. My name is Adrian, of course, and I'm joined by many folks today. We've got Brian Poland, of course.
Hello, hey, glad to be here.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you here. Brian, of course, is one of the Titans crew, co-creator, and of course working on Wyldwood in a number of capacities. We've got Aaron, of course.
Hello.
What's up, Aaron?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
We're super excited to have you here, and you might have seen Aaron playing yesterday on our first games of Wyldwood. Aaron is a designer and extremely involved in the creation of the game from the ground up.
All things design, play testing. Right? Whole world.
Yeah, this could not be happening. And of course, we've got Peter. What's up, Peter?
Yeah, awesome to be here. Very excited to, I think the second time now I'm being on the Titans, so it's awesome.
You're an honorary Titan now.
I think you're an honorary Titan. And of course, Peter from Creature Caster, who, if you don't know, make incredible models. We use them all the time here. And they created Judgment and a lot of different things that we absolutely love.
And they're creating models for...
We are working for Wyldwood.
Yeah, for Wyldwood as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm being told I might be somewhat muted, so...
Either way, you come through my mic,
you
right?
Talkie.
You were able to be picked up pretty easily, but you just sound different.
Oh, I sound different.
Well, the goal today is to actually tell you a little bit about some of the things we've learned while making a game, but also to kind of answer your questions about what goes into making your own miniatures game or board game or anything like that. And really just try to shed some light on the experience we've had so far, right? Peter's already made Judgment, which launched about almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, it launched to retail about 2 years ago now.
Right.
Yeah.
And Wyldwood we've been working on now for about a year, so we're already pretty deep into this experience, and we think that there's a lot of interesting stuff to discuss there. So that's what we're going to go through.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've already learned a lot in the year we've been working on this, and so yeah, I'm just going to share that. Again, if you have questions, please join in. I want to thank everyone for joining us. We've got Minnie Maher in chat. We've got Lindsay. What the heck? We've got Broken God Wicktail, of course, another member of the development team. We've got Espeloid. We've got Broken God. What is everybody? We'll just give everyone a couple minutes to kind of tune in and stream in. Usually it takes a little bit on Thursdays for people to join us. So, yeah, we got the sound issues sorted, and we're all set. Also, don't forget, later on today, we will have a live game. Battle of the Bryans continues between Ryan Poland and Brian Leva. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, this is, I'm losing count now. Is this our fourth or fifth? Or?
It's like fourth, and then there's a pre-recorded that they're going to see later, which...
So that'll be the fifth.
There's a time warping
This is the fourth.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. We've decided that the best of 1,000,
the
other person has to change their name.
I think that's fair, honestly.
Yeah.
Legally.
That's it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It can only be one.
Where are you up to out of the 1,000?
We're at game game 5.
Okay, yeah,
and
that's a good start.
And I think it's pretty even.
Honestly, it is.
It's going to be a nail biter all the way to the end of 1,000.
That's good.
It's going to be a tight run, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and dive on in. Yeah. So the first thing we want to talk about is a big question that we had, and I think a question many people have is, when is the right time to make your game, make your project? We obviously love games. That's why we're here. That's why we do this. We had made Titan's Drain previously, obviously, so we had made like a product and shipped it successfully and done new versions and things like that. But yet, making a game still felt very, very daunting, and we were always like, nah, we have too much stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
This is not the right time, and that kind of held us back for a long time. And you kind of had an epiphany this last year, didn't you?
Well, listen, the best time to make a game was last year. I think that's always the best time to make it. But that really points out that there is no best time. Yes, taking on any sort of project, particularly one like making an entire game, you might think in your head it's a lot of work, and you'd be correct, but you're even underselling it. It's going to be even more work. The day you finish it is really the day the work even begins again, right? And so you're signing up for an enormous commitment, and there's really just going to be no perfect time.
Yeah.
And anybody who's really passionate about making games, even both of us, we kind of wanted to make careers out of making games, and mostly video games at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But making a video game is no easier or harder than a board game, really. It's a whole thing.
Yep.
And I've been trying to pursue the right time to make my own games my whole life, and it's really just never been right. And so I was getting a bit older, and I kind of felt like I'm just like never gonna do this.
Right, yeah.
And I decided, you know what? I don't want to live with. I hate living with regrets, and I don't want to be a few years from now and say like I should have done that.
Yeah.
And so I just made the commitments.
That's what it is, honestly. Like, there's never a better time or a worse time. Like, you just need to do it, and honestly, you have to do it for the love of creating the thing. You know, it's like we're not necessarily in games because it's gonna make us all the richest we could possibly be.
Yeah.
It's gonna fulfill us the most creatively, right?
Yeah.
And really, I think one of the things that is one of our strengths, and I know Peter is very similar, where all the aspects of it are very interesting, right? It is the creative aspect of working on the game, but also the other artistic aspects of like the characters, the monsters, all that stuff. But also even like how do you build a community? How do you build a business around that? And really, you need to be interested in those, or you need to have a partner that's also interested in those. And that's super important. I mean, that's been important for everything.
I mean, the
we've
last
done
thing
together,
I'll
right?
say about that question for me is the thing that made it the right time, other than the fact that I just said I'd commit, was that I was actually finally surrounded with people who wanted to help me.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that Titans existed and there was a community who would be excited. Really, the fact that Erin, who lives down the street from me, said that she'd be down to help, right? Because it's going to take a lot of help.
Yeah.
And even the fact that we knew people like Peter and people in the community who can actually bring the parts that we didn't have skills in to life, all of that was required for that to seem plausible.
Yep. It's so true. And it all comes down to, well, how do you meet those people? You just get out there in the world and you do things, you make things, even if it's not like the version that you wanted or the thing specifically. Again, we've been sort of like inching towards this. Like, we're in the game space, we love games. So just get out there and make a thing. And that is a big thing that we'll also kind of touch on over the course of this discussion, which is just iterate. Do different versions. It's not like perfect is the enemy of good, because if you're trying to make everything perfect, you're never going to make it. We've gone through an insane number of variations on everything, right? From design of the game, of the mechanics, of the characters, of even the little markers, right? You guys did like 50 versions of those things. So
and we're not done yet.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just
These are
beginning.
just prototypes.
There's things that still drive you crazy about them.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, for both of you, like how did when I came to you with this idea of doing this, like honestly, Erin had like not even a second's hesitation. She was like, "We starting now?" But like, how do you make a decision like that?
Yeah, no, I was excited. Like, I knew it was going to be a lot of work. Like, there's no doubt about it.
Has it been more work than you thought?
I knew it was going to be a lot.
Yeah, okay.
So, yes and no. And it's just kind of like, more like the things that are like blockers, like the printing doesn't work, when those kind of things. Yeah. That stuff takes a long time.
Yeah.
A long, long time. But it's not really outside of expectations, I would say.
Okay, good. You were realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you decide like to get involved in a game? Like, you obviously had to know it was going to be an insane undertaking.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us it was about where we wanted our business to go and what we wanted to evolve into, and we sort of had like a very clear mindset that why are we sculpting models? Why are we creating these things? It was really around gaming. Like, that's what we were interested in. That's what we wanted to get into. And for us, again, it was about meeting different people at different times. And so we met the Gunmeister Games crew at Adepticon, and they had their Judgment game there. And we were sort of talking to them and expressing interest in the game. We thought it was a really cool game. And that time, it was really probably the first skirmish game almost that was out there, right? And
right.
It was kind of
from like an indie, like kind of. Or was it even just at all?
I mean, it depends. Like, you could talk about Mordheim, but it was sort of really the first, I guess, non sort of GW sort of skirmish game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we were really busy sculpting models, but we were like, hey, maybe this is the opportunity for us to find allies who can help us with rules development. You've already got a full game. Like, maybe we can bring our sculpting side of things to it. So, we really wanted to take our company in that direction of not just sculpting models, but also being a games company. And that seemed like a good opportunity. But again, in hindsight, we also ran right into COVID, which was not a ideal time for us as a company. And so, but it is one of those things you just don't know. Like, as you said, there's no necessarily perfect time to do it, because you just got to go for it.
Yeah.
And you got to see what happens, and you got to be resilient in the hard spots and kind of forge your way through, right?
Yeah, so for Creature Casters, it almost felt like inevitable that you had to do, like, the kind of business you were building, you were eventually going to have to end up making your own product, controlling your destiny.
Yeah, exactly. It was definitely this is the direction we want to go, and the sooner we can get there, the better. And we're also interested in working on other projects. So, like the Wyldwood and the Blood Throne, and like these things are all stuff that we've kind of grown and learnt about and are able to help other people with, and we're excited to do that as well and be involved in the other projects. And I think we just want to keep growing in that area as well.
So this kind of gets to the question of, we were talking about when is the right time, but the other question is like why? Why do you make games? And for like Creature Caster, it's kind of obvious. You've got this business where you make these incredible models. Making a game lets you kind of control that end to end. It's straightforward, right? But for someone like us, or even me personally, the why is actually so much more. It's different. It's very personal in a sense, right? Like for me, like I said, games have literally been my entire life. It's what I tried to build my career entirely out of. It's why we do this. It's so much, but I spent every single week of my life studying game design, making little games, little prototypes. But taking something all the way to completion is so different. And for me, I always just wanted to create something that I would be proud of, that had all of the things that I believed in. Because every game I've been a part of before, where I worked at a games company, it was like, kind of corrupted by capitalism, I guess, in a way. It's like it had to be this like licensed game for like 8-year-olds, and it's like, I'm not going to play this game. So it was never a game that I'm proud of. Like, sure, maybe it's a product that made money, but it's a garbage game. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I wanted something pure that was like, this has all the things that I think are good ideas, and I've put my very best into it. Whether it succeeds or not was not even relevant in that. It's like, I'm going to put my very best out there, and then it's like, I'll give myself a gold star for just doing it. And that was really important to me because every year I didn't do it, I felt increasingly like this tension of, I really have to do this. Like, it was an innate drive. I have to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really important. Like, you have to have that drive to just want to do the thing for the sake of wanting to make the thing, And it's so funny because, again, we're all like socialized to think like something's not possible or something's not feasible. Like, I'll be honest, for a long time, I like had almost forgotten about the desire to make my own like game, right? I did a lot of like creative projects as media, animation, stuff like that. But like, remembering like,
that's who you are.
Yeah.
Remember our first conversation in the garage when we were starting this company. What did we say? Why are we starting this company?
Because we love games. We want to make games.
Yeah. We said we're gonna make videos about games. And then we're gonna make money. And we're gonna spend that money
on games.
To make games.
Exactly. And we said, if there's any other thing in the whole world that we could do other than be making like content, what would we make? And all three of us were like, we'd make games.
Yeah, Bridger as well.
Yeah. Exactly. So
and now Bridger his career's grown, and now he is making games.
Yeah, exactly.
Right as well. And so we all knew that that's where we're trying to get to. We couldn't get to it then, 5 years ago.
Right, exactly.
But now we can.
And it's fun because it lets you also scratch all the itches in a way, and kind of as referring to as far as wanting to like do all the parts of the thing. Like, I love making videos. I love telling stories and doing all that kind of stuff. And now to start to be able to make that in our own world in exactly the way we want it to, in a way that we're also know we're reinvesting in ourselves and not necessarily like someone else's company or whatever. And it's like, oh, is this worth it? Yeah, it's worth it because this is for us, right?
Well,
and that's exciting.
Aaron touched on something that's I think really important as well, where like, okay, Aaron's a great designer, and you would think, okay, you get to spend all your time doing design, right? But like, how much of this is just you and Files doing design, and how much of it is like nonsense problems that you didn't expect?
Yes, but because I love doing this so much, when I get into those problems, I'm like, but I'm making a game. It's so cool.
And
so
that's
it's fine.
exactly the point. The exact point is, when you think you're making a game, it's all going to be fun and games, right? Not at all. You're going to run into tons of stuff that has nothing to do with the game, like trying to get our printer to work, which was hundreds of hours.
Oh my gosh,
right?
So many hours.
And that stuff is not fun. Right? Don't let anyone tell you that's fun. That part's not fun. There's tons of not fun stuff.
You don't like import, export, and tax laws?
Right.
Yeah.
There's and the list of not fun stuff that goes into making a game is so long.
Yeah.
So if you don't come into it with extreme passion, you'll never be able to push through those dark, horrible problems.
But also a good team. Because like we were working on this printer problem, but like we were still laughing while we were failing.
Well, we were laughing to stop from crying.
Exactly.
But we were close to crying.
So true.
The printer was being very mean to us.
It was. But in the end, It became our friend.
we tamed
it. We tamed it.
I don't. It's still a wild animal, but it's we've caged it.
You learned you need to turn that paper upside down.
Yeah.
We've learned many things. That was one of many issues.
that was
was a big
That
one.
was the only problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that is the number one message, though. You don't do this alone, right? Like,
For
you
sure.
know, you may be able to start alone. You may be able to have passion, but
Mm-hmm.
it is something where, like, you're never gonna make a large, successful game by yourself. It's a social process, and
Yeah.
hopefully, a social game to build community and build friendships. So, like, that's a big creature caster driving force of
Right.
what we want to do. Is we want to see those communities grow. We want to see people playing the games and having fun.
Yeah, in fact, one of the reasons to do a project like this is to meet new people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
deepen
gosh,
relationships in a community, right? Because for me, I'm now at this point, we've still got a lot of work left on this project.
sure, yeah.
But, I'm already excited about a career of making more
Mm-hmm.
of these. And that's only going to happen because this game opens doors and to new relationships and new possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. It's like about getting to work with people that you always wanted to work with, people that you respect. It's like we've always been such big fans of Creature Caster. We've become
Yeah.
friends, and it was like I always thought, how cool would it be to be involved in that,
Yeah.
And that is the other big thing is finding good people that you want to work with that complement your roles. Like Brian's the tax imports and exports guy. Like I'm not gonna say you like it any more than I do, but like you definitely have more of an affinity for doing it, getting done. And
Yeah.
there's things that I do that he hates to do. And you guys having the sculpting capability and reaching out to the creators of Judgment and being like, here's how we can kind of collaborate. Same thing here, like Wyldwood, cool. We have a lot of experience in games. We have worked with printed media and some manufacturing, right? But sculpting and models, that's a whole other thing. So it's
Yeah.
like, let's find someone who knows that, and then we can kind of join forces on that. So super important. Obviously, we're talking kind of a big scale. It's like big channel, big company, things like that. But even if it's just like a few more people, a person who knows sculpting that or a person who is like into this part of it, that's the way to do it, right?
Well, this kind of goes to the next question that we
Yeah.
kind of want to talk about, which is about how do you set goals for yourself, right? Yes, we look like, we have a lot of advantages because we have this channel.
Sure, yeah.
It's worth noting this was kind of a master plan, right? We
Yeah,
started
yeah.
the channel with nothing.
Right.
And we said, man, maybe we could build an audience and then make games, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you want to try something like that. It's a long-term
long-term thing,
goal.
yeah.
But also, if you're just starting from scratch, it's about having realistic goals. Like you can look out on Kickstarter and see, wow, look at all these very successful projects. But you can't assume that that's going to be the case. And even us, we're not assuming that everyone's going to go out and buy Wyldwood.
No.
Like,
There's no guarantees, right?
no. We agreed. Like when we committed our time and our money and all this sort of stuff to it, we agreed that if no one bought a single copy of Wyldwood, we'd be happy with this.
Yeah,
still.
yeah. We're gonna make that thing. Be
Like
satisfied.
a masterpiece on our shelf.
Yeah, it'll go on a
what we
shelf.
decided.
We'll play it.
Yeah.
And
We
it was
love
like
it, so
it
we're
was the
gonna play.
journey for us. It was a bit more of the journey than the destination as well. That's not going to be everyone's path to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the resource question of how much resources you have, what are your resources, and sometimes they're not always monetary. But obviously, if you're looking at like, hey, what are we going to do? Crowdfunding becomes a chance for people who have no experience in this and have no expertise to try and float something on a crowdfunding. And I would definitely suggest maybe don't make it your magnus opus. Like start with a small thing, because you want to also build your reputation through the crowdfunding. Hopefully have success and not run into problems. And being small makes that a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
So there are those opportunities now that, I guess Kickstarter is 15 years old.
It's been a while.
So,
Yeah.
but that's really only been the last 15 years where this idea of making a game became something that is sort of open to anybody if you
Agree.
Exactly.
have a plan, right? And you
Yeah.
enact it.
So yeah, basically, don't mortgage your house to make a game.
No.
You know what I mean?
Definitely do not.
Stay within your means, and
Yep.
then grow it from there. And even that, like if let's say you can launch something really small, that's great. Focus on making that great, and then build an audience and plan to grow it from there.
Yeah.
And just don't expect that it's going to be this big splash. And
No, and often sometimes things that seem like big splashes because of marketing and stuff like that are not. Everything has like a lineage that it comes from. There's like a smaller version that they started or a similar thing. And yeah, I really think of a lot of this as the idea of sort of slow and steady checkpoints, right?
Yeah.
So even with Titan's Terrain, there's a couple things we did. We tried to be very smart. We had a million ideas, right?
Yeah.
But we're trying to like, okay, one starting set. It was one set.
Yeah.
Just do that. Have it nice, but make it reasonable. We set a Kickstarter goal that would make sure that we wouldn't screw ourselves if that was like the minimum that we got. It's a common mistake people make is they don't actually ask for enough in the Kickstarter. Make sure you can sort of recoup everything. Get that finished, get that delivered, establish a reputation that we can actually do that. Then you do the next one, and we're like, okay, we're gonna do 2 sets, and you sort of like make sure you can recoup costs, reinvest it, and you can do something a little bit bigger next time. And same with this game, right? Like, we've got big dreams for it, but if at a minimum we just get out there and make the game, we're solid and we're good, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to making sure it's sustainable, that you don't, throw away all your time and money and things like that.
Yeah, like we're keeping our day jobs to pay for this, and I think that's
yeah.
really crucial. There's a lot, like if you can go to any gaming convention, and you'll see lots of people with their own game, but almost no one's turning it into a career.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think it's important to have realistic goals. That's definitely the case.
So important. So kind of figure that out, Just touching on chat, lots of great questions, and we'll definitely touch on these. Yes, Brian doesn't age physically, just emotionally. 'cause he's a
Well,
vampire.
vampires still age.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they do. They do age.
No, I mean their bodies don't physically age,
Right.
but they're still getting
They
older.
are getting older, yeah.
Yeah.
More ancient, more cynical.
That's right.
More hungry.
Yeah, they gain new vampire powers most of the time too.
That's true, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
You can turn into different things.
Yeah.
We had a question on how long it takes to do a sculpt. We're going to kind of talk a bit about the whole process that we've done for these models. So we'll do that very shortly. And I think that was it. Oh yeah, Uncle Adam had a great quote. How do you start making a small fortune in game making? Start with a large fortune. Yeah. I mean,
that is the
I mean, it's
probably
happened many times.
don't do this if your dream is to be like a billionaire or a like go into finance, go do something like that.
yeah.
And then make games.
And then make games
games
after.
after.
Exactly.
Make games after.
Yeah, yeah.
All comes around.
Be smart.
But you
with
may
it,
find
right?
you have lost your passion for games after you've journeyed that different life path.
Well,
as
frankly,
right?
Possible.
that's why it's also good to set it to a reasonable threshold, And again, that's why for me, Titan's Terrain was so encouraging because again, there was a lot of unfun parts about just like the logistics and all that stuff, and we did it and we got through it. And after that process, we still said, yeah, we want to do like another thing. It was more like a vampiric hunger, honestly.
Yeah.
To like, I can't. I'll be so sad if that's the last creative project we ever do.
But
Let's do
Adrian's
another.
definitely correct that we were very slow and steady. Like we were willing to take things one step at a time and measure our goals over years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
We'll build an audience. We'll make a test product. We'll like see that works. We'll sell all of that, and then we'll make another test product that's a little better. And all the while we're building relationships that we might call back on a year later, 2 years later, to say like, now we're accumulating the tools.
Right.
Right. So in that sense, we've been very cautious. Actually, we haven't. The time that we decided to throw in and do it, we had been building up towards it for a very long time. And even like I said, like it's not an exaggeration to say that I actually spend at least 5+ hours studying game design a week since I was about 12.
Right.
And so I don't miss a week on that.
Yeah.
And I work on things, and so it's like I've been ready for this moment.
Exactly.
It's like I've been honing it. It's like, we're gonna do this.
Waiting to line up the
Be
shot.
ready for the moment. That is definitely. I mean, I think for me, as this is my career, right? This is where I make my money. I can speak to it slightly differently. Is that there is definitely challenges and risks you have to take within that, and in order to try and get to the next step.
That is very true.
And I think diversification is one of the things I've realized really important as you are, if this is your industry, and Titans has that built in because you have all these different things you're doing that are gaming related but not a game, right? And CreatureCaster has that too in different ways. Again, with partnerships that we have with other people where we're offering the sculpting services, and but also with different STL campaigns and different things we're doing that are not just putting all our eggs in one basket. So because that's where I see a lot of companies have actually just completely gone out of business because they were all into something and it didn't work out, and then they don't have anything left. So I imagine that is just absolutely devastating.
It is, and as I said, if you're trying to do this for the love of it, that turns it into just pure, worry and pain and bitterness.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a very dangerous way to approach it.
Definitely. Welcome in, Roker. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so we are going to be going to Kickstarter. We're going to be looking at spring next year. So lots of development to be done until then.
But our approach to Kickstarter is always to have a fully 100% finished product
Yes.
the day we go to Kickstarter. In fact, we've already worked with the factory. They've already produced finished proofs.
Yeah.
So we know exactly what it'll cost, exactly how long it'll take to make. We know what the shipping, we know everything. The product is done, all the typos fixed.
Yep.
We're going to Kickstarter just to find out how many to order.
Yeah, we effectively just use it as a pre-order, right?
Right.
Easier with some things than others, right? With Titan's Train, it's a bit easier because we don't have to do all the molding and modeling and other costs beforehand, right? But it's very much a thing that we do, and that's frankly one of the big secrets, well, not secrets, but reasons we've been able to deliver Kickstarters not only on time, but dare I say even ahead of schedule, was because we planned for delays. We didn't know what the delays were, but we knew they were coming. And yeah, Kickstarter was just a way to say, how many do we need? Yeah. And everything was ready. So get as much as you can prepared before you go live with that Kickstarter.
Yeah. Because even then, you run,
really
like we, as you said, like with Titan's Train, for example, we had everything finished. We knew it was going to take them, let's say, 60-ish days to manufacture.
Yeah.
And about 60-ish days to ship.
Yeah.
And then, so then, you've got about 4 months there. And we said it would take, let's say, 6 months.
Right, yeah.
And then, even then, certain things went wrong.
Yeah.
Which, like, took it up to, like, 5.5, right? That we didn't expect.
Yep.
Like, we had a shipment, it comes, and it's, like, all on time, it arrives at the port. Oh, they decided to hold it for a month at the port.
Yeah, exactly.
For no reason. And it could easily have been held for 3 months at the port.
Oh, for sure.
Or, like, the container could have fallen off the boat. Like, I know so many game designers who literally their entire shipment fell into the ocean.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was...
It's crazy, right? So these things can happen. And so even when everything is like, there's no risk, there's still so much
There's
risk.
always risk. And I do agree with Peter was saying, it's like, you will have to take some. You know, we're all about like being smart about it, but at a certain point, you're gonna have to make that move.
Don't risk your house, right? Like I think draw the line. You know, like there will be probably some risk in anything you do, and you can't be afraid to take risks in life either. You just won't.
Yeah.
Mitigate your risk as much as possible. I think that's the message. Right?
Exactly.
So the next question I was kind of curious about is, we talked about kind of when to start, why to start, how to start. Like what is the first step that you actually take?
Yeah.
And I think, there's lots of different ways, but I'm curious, to hear like maybe what you think about that too.
Yeah, so I think it's important to consider, what do you personally love? What are you personally passionate about? What inspires you? And to begin sort of spitballing ideas from that. And I'll be honest, that first thing that you pick is probably going to be very, very different from the thing that you actually end up making.
Right.
But you come from a place of love, and you come from that kind of location, and you look for new ways of doing that, right? Which is one of the hardest things to do, is to not just be completely just copy and paste of things. So for example, I know a lot of your inspiration came from actually the like turn-based, grid-based games, right?
Like video games.
We talked about video games
Final Fantasy
first.
Tactics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously we're here making a physical game, very, very different, but
I mean, it plays a lot like Final Fantasy
yeah,
Tactics.
exactly. They're trying to be a miniature game, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would love a miniature game of Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah, exactly.
Call me up, Square, I'll do it.
You were like, these dang license deals have to make a certain IP. But we'll do it. But yeah, kind of taking that kernel and just kind of building something from that.
I mean, like miniatures games, they kind of have these three parts, right?
Yeah.
They have the models.
Yep.
They have the lore, and they have the gameplay. These are the three pillars, as far as I see it. And they're all important, but you have to choose where you're going to start.
So true.
And I have lots of cool lore ideas, but I'm not an amazing author. I have lots of ideas about the models, but I'm not a sculptor. I know a lot about game design, so I started with gameplay first. In fact, the game we started with was entirely it was a different theme, no lore, whatever, different abstract.
It wasn't even 100% going to be like a physical game. There was a time where maybe it was even going to be.
Right. We were prototyping it as we always knew that we wanted to be potentially a video game and a tabletop game at the same time. But then we realized that's impossible.
Yeah.
That's a bajillion scope.
Some of us realize that sooner than others, but that's just a brief side note to talk about partnerships. It's super important to also have all those different opinions, and I think one of the reasons that we've been successful is, from the early days, it was like the Brian, the Bridger, and the Adrian, and the Brian is everything's possible, Bridger is nothing's possible, and then I'm like the middle-headed giant, tries to like balance them
Yeah,
out.
some things are possible.
Yeah. So Brian has this insane idea, and it's like cool, and eventually we kind of bring him down to earth a little bit, but we're still, not even down to earth. We're still kind of floating a few feet
Oh
above,
yeah,
right?
not even close.
Yeah. It's still pretty crazy.
No, but then, honestly,
it's important,
Maybe
though.
you remember. Okay, I told the story the other day, but like
Yeah.
I was driving my daughter to summer camp last year. It was a long drive, and I decided I'm gonna do it. I
Right.
started writing the rules.
Yeah.
And I had like figured out, okay, we could make like a tactics game for computer. We could release the miniatures. You could do the same thing. This is how it works. Here's the
Yeah.
general theory. And then I stopped for a gas. No, I think I stopped to like grab like McDonald's or gas or something. And I called you.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, dude.
Yeah.
Sickest idea. We're gonna do everything. We're gonna make this game. We're gonna do this thing. And you're like, And then you're like, that's a lot. You know?
Like a lot.
You're like, that's a lot. You sure you have to do it all? And I'm like, we gotta do it all. It's gonna be the best. And then you're like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah.
But you're like, it's crazy.
It's crazy, but like let's pursue this idea. Let's try some things. Let's think about it. Let's talk about it, and then it sort of condenses down, But it's important also like to be critical and be able to have partners that you can be honest with, and nobody's gonna be offended. I think it's so important.
Yeah, no, you were telling me, you're like, that's a lot of work. Who's doing the programming? And I was like, we got this. We're pretty good.
We're pretty good.
and then it's like Bridger will do it.
Bridger will handle it. Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like, and then like I kind of sling back to you in a few days. I'm like, I don't think we should do this video game.
I'm like, yeah.
And you're like, yeah. I thought you'd get there.
Come back around, yeah.
But you might have found partners to do it. Right?
Yeah,
and,
totally.
And I think, even as you were saying, like, oh, you had this idea for the games and your ambitions, and then over time you like figured out the pieces. That was the same thing with like the Gunmeister team, right? It was like, oh, you're like, yeah, I've got, since 12, I've been looking at game design. I've been like making my own little games, but this was a complete game that we were able to adapt and adopt and give suggestions as to what, hey, like we feel you need to change this, which ironically, one of the things we changed with Judgment was we did shrink down the models because we were like, we want it to be a compact area.
Right. Yeah.
And now working with you guys, you've gone with bigger models. So it's, but for us, that was what was financially possible. That was what was within setting our goals. Was like, hey, this is what we think we can sell this for.
Right.
This is how much it costs to make these models. And even that technology has obviously changed a lot in the last 5 years, right? But I think it was like just a really good process of having partners where we could say, this is why we don't think it's going to work. Do you still want to work with us? And they're like, yeah, those are really good points. And we debated it and we went back and forth. And we continue that to this day of being able to have that really good relationship and being able to talk about it. And that also comes over to the work that I'm doing with you, right? Of like, you guys have lots of feedback. And I'm not like, no feedback, right? It's like you need to take the criticism and you need to absorb it and learn and everyone has opinions but generally there's something that you can get out of those opinions, right? So don't ignore them.
So Aaron, talk about when we first got back and I told you about the game. What were those first few days like? How did we take our first steps? Do you remember?
Not really.
Do you
What
remember?
did we do?
Like blur. Like we our goal
So
was to
long
get it
ago.
to something playable as quick as possible. How did we do that?
Right. Well, we started with Tabletop Simulator.
Right.
So, and that actually also helped deciding what like between video game versus like a tabletop game.
Right.
It's like we our first few like testing and whatever was all like over computer.
Yeah. Right.
Where we were like, this is fun, but it would be more fun in person.
Yeah.
And that was a big
physicality.
decision.
And why did we choose Tabletop Simulator? Do you remember? Do you remember what the key attribute that we were caring about was?
Just fast prototyping.
That's it.
Yeah.
Iteration time.
Quick.
Right? We knew that our ideas were going to be bad. Pretty much all of them. Okay?
Yeah.
And we wanted, the problem that I've had in any design career is if you put a lot of work into something, you have a tendency to kind of like hold on to it.
Yes.
You want to be able to throw out your ideas so fast, especially in those early days.
And we did.
And
we threw out a lot
We
fast.
threw out a ton. So we could come up with a whole new version, write
Yeah.
all new cards,
Yeah.
push a button, it would go into Tabletop Simulator, and then we could play those games,
Yeah.
and then we could go, like, even halfway through the game, we're like, no, this sucks, change everything,
Yeah.
start playing again.
And the big thing was the card prototyping.
Right.
Because to have to print those and
It was huge.
every single time, if there's a spelling mistake, whatever, there's a million reasons. So being able to do that all online was,
Yeah, we had like a Google spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yep.
We wrote all the cards.
yeah. And then we connected it with a website.
It was a
which
website that
was-
like auto-generated digital cards.
Exactly, and then those could be put into Tabletop Simulator.
Right.
So it all worked
Very,
together.
very slick.
And it was all like I guess, free for the most part. So
yeah,
it was
you had to buy Tabletop
it was
Simulator, which we
right,
had.
but everything else was pretty much free. So it was cheap to test
Exactly
these
right.
things and do it quickly.
And we just used like default little trees and models that come in
Yeah,
Tabletop
yeah,
Simulator.
exactly.
And we imported like little tokens with little pictures. Again, it was a Sky Pirate game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had Sky Pirates.
Yeah.
I'm really glad we're not doing Skype.
Yeah.
That might have
Listen,
changed
I
my
don't know if
entire...
I would have been
time
doing
for the
that.
I don't know if I
Pirates.
would have been involved.
I'm sure we could have made it cool. You know, there's actually some abstract reasons why we
Yeah.
were. I'll just give you a little
Let's
tidbit.
hear it. Well, I remember some of the reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember some? Okay,
Yeah.
so people might not know, I used to work in VR. I'm very passionate about VR, and I think it's an amazing technology. And I'm always sad that there's like no good VR games.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, there was this one, not too bad,
Yeah.
tactics kind of D&D kind of games. I think it's called Demio. It's pretty cool. And when I played that, I was like, yeah, this is what should exist. Like, I would change 100 things about this, but yeah, this is in the right lane. And there's more and more new VR headsets coming out, and they're kind of cool. And I was like, what if you made like a decent tabletop game
That'd be cool.
in VR? And I was always thinking about like what would make that rad. Like, and I pictured this idea if you were kind of like standing at this table, but what if the table was like, you know, like a flying, you know, like big flying rocks like Pandora
Right.
from Avatar sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then you have this world around you, and you're kind of standing in it, and now you're playing on this table. And you know, how could you play with that space? It's like, okay, now you got to like fly between the rocks. And like my mind instantly just went to like this civilization that's in the sky, but I kind of like fantasy. I wanted it to be lower, so it's like
Exactly.
Sky Pirate. It's like, you know,
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
kind of came to it from a very roundabout.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna make a VR tactics game, but
Yeah.
I want these flying islands. So like Sky Pirates fly in the islands.
Oh, it all makes sense now.
Yeah, doesn't that make sense? It checks out, yeah.
But it shows you your first ideas, like, you know, like you don't get too
Listen,
married to them.
we had
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
playing
you have
those
to-
Sky
Honestly,
Pirates, though.
It was
great.
the same
we had
game.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was the same game. We
Yeah.
had the cards, like a bunch of the rules were bad. Then they were less fun.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the point. We iterated to find, it's a common thing in game design, it's called finding the fun, right? You say, oh, we had a lot of fun with that. How do we do more of that in the game? This part was not fun. How do we
Yeah.
just take that out of the game?
Right.
Yeah, but a lot of the classes we chose for the characters and whatnot, like those have been consistent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of.
I'm still waiting for my Harlequin pirate,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's okay. And then yeah, we kind of brought it around to this woodland forest. This again very grounded, smaller scope, smaller world. Again, really building the world that we can tell these stories around, and those going to be very visually striking and play with concepts that were obviously very familiar: elves, dwarves, humans, like that. But then actually, this sort of prehistoric, primal, whatever you want to call it, this tone, which I think is essential now to the game, was kind of developed over, you know, like developing the game, but also having to describe the game to Peter, and really, you know, his questions on why this and why that, and we kind of like really honed in and amped up some of those elements, and now it's truly a pillar, I think, of the design, and just focusing it in, focus. We went super wide, cut the things up, try a million different versions, and just like distill it down to the purest version of it.
Yeah, how we actually, so once we realized, okay, we're not going to do the VR game, we're not going to do the video game at all, it's going to be a tabletop game.
Right.
Then we could say, okay, our motivations for even deciding this theme were flawed, right?
Yep.
And the game we've created is quite agnostic, like the system.
It's a system,
The
yeah.
system is quite agnostic. So what we did is we generated this this kind of lookbook where we had like 12 different themes.
Yep.
And we created like what kind of pros and cons and some kind of reference examples. And we sat down and looked at the 12 themes, and we started just kind of saying like, definitely not that, definitely not this, not this, maybe these. And this kind of more traditional fantasy forest theme
Yep.
just kept rising to the top, and it was like, okay, we just love that.
It'd be really cool.
Yeah,
And
and then
then-
it kind of felt like obvious that was the right
Yeah.
one.
It did work.
And it didn't exist as much as we wanted it to exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm always worried to be like, this has never been done before. But it's like, you know, we love like the wood elf models and the spirits, and it's like
Yeah.
there's parts of that, but it's not quite the thing that we wanted, you know, and kind of honing in on that, right?
Exactly, that's true. And then over time, more and more came in.
I think the interplay as well, like you mentioned the three pillars of basically lore, you know, the gameplay and the miniatures, right? Like the interplay of how that works as well, and each one is going to inform the other, and it becomes like a circular thing, and you can tinker with it for the rest of your life. So I think that's again, you were saying, you know, don't go for perfect, right? You know, because you got to release something at some point in time
Exactly.
and learn from that release and improve and and it's really the constant iteration. So
Yep.
aiming for like a perfect rule set or perfect anything is oftentimes just the death of creativity, because you just never get there. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You're just never going to put something out, and that's where a lot of creative projects just languish, right? Personal things, is you never put them out there. Get them out there in the world. You know, it's scary, but it's cool. And you know, again, think about the pillars. So the game became, again, now it's physical.
Yeah.
More about really fantastic, beautiful miniatures, because we
Right.
also had this we've had lots of discussions over the last few years of the relationship between the growing board game industry and the miniature industry, also growing, but really wanting to talk about like the intersection between them and ease of play and really accessibility and some of the things that are more challenging in like big tabletop war games, things like that, which we love, but really dialing it in to say, okay, we want to make it nice and tight. There's no dice, which is kind of crazy given what we're known for, and really have that really precise gameplay where you can calculate everything, and we reduce the models to, again, partially ambition, but also partially like nice, beautiful, big models, like things that were just pieces of art in and of themselves.
I think you know, we started thinking, okay, what does this look like now as a product, not just a game?
Yeah.
And a couple things struck me. Okay, so you have to kind of have an audience in mind. Selfishly, I kind of made myself the audience. I said, okay, I'm really into these games. What would I want? And there's a few important things to me. You know, let's say I play a bunch of big games that Games Workshop makes primarily. If I'm trying to buy a second game, one of the big important things for me is that game, it fits into my hobby, right? These games are they fill your entire life. They're so all-encompassing that a lot of times I see a game, I'm like, that's so rad, and I'll never play it. I'll never have time for that, or I'll never get to paint those models. So I needed a game that has scope and scale, both in the number of miniatures and the complexity to learn the game, and even just how fast you could set it up and tear it down, how much space in your house it took up, like these kinds of things. I needed it to fit in as maybe your second game, right? You have 40K or whatever, Heresy or something, and then this game. So I knew the scale needed to be like constrained. And then how do you make, if it's only going to have 5 models or something like that, how do you make that so special, right? And there's lots of games with tons of rad models.
Of course,
I just wanted them to be more special, and that's where we started pushing for the display, and that's why we started calling people like Peter who can just make really special models. And they're not just models that exist, they're really things that people are going to look at for a long time.
Yeah, they're display scale, right? You really only see the scale in display models that don't have game for them. They're just beautiful models in and of themselves. And we're like, well, why can't we just do that? Focus on that.
We have a question here where they're asking about Trench Crusade, which has been very obviously the biggest success in indie games, and they're talking about how that game is very focused on hobbying and letting you bring your own models and all that sort of stuff. It's actually a pretty different world there, and how are we kind of trying to, if at all, kind of go into that world? Yeah,
that's a great question, honestly, and I think we've learned a lot of great lessons from Trench Crusade, and a couple of them were, one, they're kind of one of the examples where I'm referring to where I say nothing comes from nothing. You know, they have been building this community for years. They have involved people in the rules very early, so people have been playing the games, you know, like the Kickstarter just came out, you know, and I think the physical models are just now arriving, but people have been playing this already. So there's a passion for that, there's a drive for that. And then, they make the narrative essential. You know, if you haven't played Trench Crusade, first of all, try it, but like the narrative is, you can't play that game without being involved in the narrative, in the story and the lore. So those are 2 very important parts of our development. That's why we're here. That's why we're not like, game is live today, because we want to be involved with the community right away. We want to get your thoughts. We want to start talking about the lore with you and developing that over time, so that by the time we're ready to launch it, we're not just coming out of nowhere. You guys are already familiar with this, and hopefully you're excited about it. So I think there's a lot of really great things to be taken from Trench Crusade. And frankly, the cards, the art, a lot of the decisions we've made have been specifically about building up this lore in a way that you don't necessarily get if it's just miniatures, you know?
Yeah, I suppose there's kind of a couple pieces there. Like, Trench Crusade started with a great universe and a great lore. Like I said, we started from
that
gameplay.
was their pillar, was their lore and their universe and their art. That's
exactly right.
Like where
that's where they started, and that's the specialty that their kind of first founder had.
And they were also very fortunate as well, because they have, you know, a really great team. Having talked to all the Trench Crusade guys, they have a really great team, and so they have, you know, Thomas there, who's also doing the rules, right? But that was not something, that really came from where it all started. Like it really did start with the lore and the art that Mike had been developing. And Mike isn't even really much of a miniature gamer overall, right? Like that's not his background, but he's like enthusiastic about it, but it's not where he came from, right?
Yeah.
So meeting people who are into the miniature game, like he would have maybe again been more natural to do a video game.
Yeah,
that was his industry.
That was his
from.
industry, right? So, but for him to go into the board game was about the people he met and this community that is being developed from it, right?
But even I think so there was a couple other questions there. So yeah, we definitely started with the gameplay, and now we're building into the others, right?
Yeah.
And so we actually haven't revealed a lot of our lore.
No.
And there's two things. Like one, we'd like to reveal that over time, but two, we're still working on it.
For sure.
And so, but to Adrian's point, we wanted lore to be very central to the game. And funny enough, the having the cards, even just having the art and even the flavor text, allows a lot of storytelling throughout the game that you don't get. The mission cards you turn every turn tell a story about what's happening in the forest. So that's been really something we're excited about, that even during the game, a story is told naturally and you get little pieces of the world. But frankly, we're still actually looking for great authors that we might want to work with and expand our lore, because we have so many cool ideas, but we're not professionals in that regard.
No,
right?
for sure.
So we can do better there. But the other question about models and how we engage hobbyists, we're actually still exploring that a lot. So first of all, we're creating these great miniatures, really detailed, beautiful. But then, are they just these? We've gone back and forth. Are these monolithic pieces, or do they come in? They come in separate pieces and you assemble them. And then if you can assemble them, do we have alternate heads and alternate hands and things like that? And then can hobbyists then, do lots of conversions? And, we come from a place where we love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the real reasons, it's almost obvious to do that, but one of the reasons not to do it is it makes manufacturing so complicated. It increases the cost of the models. And, if you make it as one piece, people can still cut it and do whatever they want. It's just not as friendly to that. So I would say the jury's still out on that.
It's super out, because at the end of the day, what we want is just to make them the highest quality thing that we can get to you guys, and that's going to determine a lot of that. So the exact nature of the hobbying, I think, remains to be seen. But again, there's a reason we've picked these models, and we have had a lot of discussions around: is this model easy to paint? Does it give a lot of expression to really expert painters, but is also not overwhelming for beginner painters? And that's a lot of what we've been doing behind the scenes. We're like, what if we paint this with just quick paints, or what if we give this to an amazing artist like Izzy or Lil B, and kind of seeing both ends of the spectrum. So it's definitely like hobby is very high up there, and then there's more to be just developed and decide like what is possible.
Yeah, I don't think there's any easy answer to that question, because, as a business as well, you want to have reached the biggest audience you can, right? And so, when you're like, one of the things we did, which was perhaps a mistake in hindsight just because of the additional expenses, but we released things in resin and we released things in PVC, and so like using multiple materials gives people more options, but as a company it costs you more money, right? So these are the debates you have to have, and you're like, well, maybe that opens up a bigger audience, so that makes up for the money loss. But it's there's not necessarily an easy answer to that question, other than obviously everyone sitting at this table likes to hobby and mess with miniatures.
No matter
right?
what, we're going to customize it. Even if you don't make it easy.
If you make me cut it with a saw, I'm going to cut it with a saw, right? That's how it's going to go.
Right. Well, and that's why it was so important for us that we even like on day one have that physical board. It's like we kind of made a hobby project for ourselves because we don't know any other way.
And it's fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
We have a couple questions that I think are interesting. So Melody's asking, are we trying to keep the character sheets really simple and maybe have the complexity in the deck? And I'm curious, we've gone through untold iterations. Well, what do you think the design philosophy is there?
It's definitely simplicity, and when you look at it, you don't feel overwhelmed. And like seeing up so many rules that like you just like don't even know where to look. We wanted to make it very clear that like it's like each rule is kind of separate, easy to read, not too much flavor text, but a little bit just so you still have that lore and you're still adding that in. So that was really important.
And even
to
the
us.
cards themselves.
Yeah, the cards themselves, we wanted to again keep very simple with the rules.
Keep the word count very
keep
low.
The word count low, keep the flavor text low.
Just the noise on the card.
And also have the art very like much featured and very big and.
Yeah. So Aaron and I are both,
Tell a
graphic
story.
designers, and
Yeah.
and this is really something we care a lot about. And just because a game is complicated doesn't mean that it's actually deeper than another game, right? You've got games like chess that are not complicated and they're fabulously deep, right? And so our goal has always been, as a designer, we're trained to go towards simplicity,
Yeah.
right?
And like I am new to the whole tabletop gaming world,
Right.
wargaming world.
Yeah.
I'm kind of newer to it. And when we created this game, like I wanted it to be approachable for me, but also so I can play it with my friends who aren't in this world at all.
Right.
Exactly.
They're down to game, they're down to have a good time, but they are not in this world. So I wanted the game to be approachable for them too. So when you read our cards, like you said, there's complexity to it, but it's actually
The complexity is in the decisions you make, not
Right.
in understanding what
exactly,
you can do.
exactly.
That is really, really crucial. And we redesigned the character sheets over and over and over and over again
gosh, yeah.
to make the information easy to digest.
Yep.
And we redesigned the cards over and over and over again to strip out unneeded information,
Yep.
to reduce word count. And that's really crucial because even Warhammer these days, I've been complaining endlessly to you
Yes, that's
about
true.
how the word count of rules keeps going up.
Yeah, yeah.
And these little character sheets, they're brimming with rules and they're two-sided now. And they're just trying to say one simple thing you can do, but there's so many words to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, they make it more
Very
complicated. It has
frustrating
to
for
be-
me. I hate it. I hate it.
No, it's a lot. I think the deck also lets us distribute the information a bit
Right.
differently. And this is something that Peter, you were saying the other day is, looking at Judgment. One of the things I love about Judgment is it's a very technical game, right?
Right.
It's really great for that. And there's in many ways a similar level of like rules and words and things like that. But the way they're distributed is kind of inverted, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think for Judgment, so talking about the inspirations and where Judgment came from was again lots of different things like Magic, World of Warcraft, but really like sort of MOBA games where every single hero is this sort of epic character that can do all these narrative things and you're almost telling a story on the battlefield. Like, that's part of the spirit of what Judgment is, right? And inherently, that means that your character card has all of these abilities on, so there's quite a lot. And we do break it up a bit because there's levels, right? So you don't get everything all at once. You get, here's your things, and then you level up. But the reality with Judgment as well is that in order to be that high level of play, you need to know all the things that you're going to unlock. And so with Wyldwood, I think you get similar levels of complexity, but again, it is distributed. So you got your cards, you need to know those, you need to know your basic abilities, which is really fast. And then you've got your 7 cards in your hand, and that's all you need to know for that turn, right? But really, as you grow as a player, as you learn more, you also need to know all the possible cards your opponent could have, right?
And what's in your deck,
What's
and-
in your deck, and like
exactly.
what your odds are that you're going to draw this thing, and
Right.
and so there's really a ton of depth and learning that you can do in both games, and I think on the front end, Wyldwood's probably a little bit lighter, right? Of like, this is my first turn of the game. My amount of information is lesser than what you get in a game like Judgment, right?
Right.
But I think they have a lot of some of the same philosophies in terms of gameplay.
Oh,
and
definitely.
and I think it's also interesting as well as terms of abstraction. So, when you look at Wyldwood, you could be standing 2 hexes from somebody and not be, or 2 squares, you don't use hexes, and not be able to see them because it's more like a chess abstraction of like these pieces can shoot in these particular angles.
Right.
And that creates like a really interesting gameplay. And then in Judgment, it's more the storytelling we wanted to do. So we're trying to avoid like abstractions where we can and sort of be more literal of like, oh, this is when you can see the person because you can draw this line to them, right? And so there's very interesting like pros and cons and getting the balance and finding your audience and what the audience wants to play. And I think even when you talk about, oh, these rules keep getting more complex, is for 40K or something like that, is what is their audience? How is their audience responding? What are the feedback that they're getting? And something like Magic, you go to Magic the Gathering, want to learn to play, it's a one-page rules to learn to play. But when you look at their actual rule book, it's like 500 erratas of like all of these things, right? And so I think it's very interesting, like as games become competitive, like those rules tend to expand.
Right.
And what's your intention for your product for your game, or you're like, is this going to go to a competitive scene, and
Right.
how do I make the difference? We were talking yesterday, the difference between a competitive player and a casual player, not worlds apart, but actually close together.
Well, in a perfect game,
essential.
there's no difference.
Exactly.
Right?
In our opinion, like if you just play the cards and the deck the way that you think they should be played, or certainly the way that the lore makes it sound they should be played, and you're trying to play like a really competitive, strong game, in Wyldwood, it's the same basically. Like you're still trying to get the wisps and do. Peter had a really, really interesting build this morning he wanted to try out, where he was like doing a lot of scrying and like cycling through the cards and doing all this crazy stuff. And it really actually kind of fit in with the lore of all the things,
Totally.
and it was very flavorful and it was cool to see. So that's definitely very much a goal, is like to make those things not so different. And so those two people could play a game and one of them wouldn't feel like the other person was like being gamey or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, no shade to when it happens in other games, but like it's a hard problem to solve.
But it's mostly a problem when the game isn't designed correctly. If the game's not balanced and the rules aren't clear, then we have arguments.
Yeah.
But if the game's clear and fair, then it's fine. Like nobody's going to say, "Hey, you're playing chess too hard."
Well, it's the benefits
You know what I mean?
of squares and hexes. Like, I mean, I
Clarity.
think that's a very big thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We were originally, the game design for Judgment was measuring,
Right,
and
yeah.
those games become arguments about, am I within 1 millimeter of something, right? And there's ways of doing that. You have social contracts where contracts that you're making during the game of like, well, I'm moving my guy and I'm in range, right? Like before I finish my movement, so
Right.
that we don't always have to check the 1 millimeter, right? So, but if you can just get rid of all that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the way of getting rid of all that
Which
is
we
to
did.
put
We hated
hexes and
it.
squares.
We tried it measuring as well.
Yeah,
right?
well, we started with the grid because
Yeah.
we kind of, I guess,
Right.
liked that idea. And the second we tried the measuring, we were like, absolutely
It
not.
looks cool.
It looked cool.
It looked really cool.
I pushed back. I was like, oh, but I love boards and all that stuff. I was like, oh, let's try it. And we tried a
Yeah.
few games, and like immediately, we're like, oh, I don't like this at all. It
Yeah.
it was less precise, obviously, and immediately it was like, oh, if I'm like a millimeter here, you can't land here.
But you also
It
couldn't
was, like,
see
it
what was possible
It
anymore.
was icky. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It
Like
added-
now you hold the cards, you see everything possible, and that's key to the
Exactly.
game.
Yeah.
Right?
It just
You can't do
added the
that.
wrong kind of complexity.
Yeah.
So true. I do want to give a special thank you, of course, to Harborn Vortex Games for gifting 5 Tabletop
Thank you.
Trains memberships.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that. Welcome all 5 new members. You guys can check out, of course, our extra episode of Wyldwood from the Tuesday members only game.
We did have a couple questions above
Yeah.
that I wanted to get to. Kinatu, I believe, is that how it was said?
Yeah,
he was
Kinatu.
asking about community involvement and what we're actually looking for. I think they asked about lore specifically, about whether we were actually taking community suggestions. And what you may have seen is we posted a Discord.
Yep.
Yep.
And the Discord is for getting feedback on all parts of the game. So we'll post that in chat here. But
Yep.
basically, it's feedback on the models and the designs and the rules and. We
cards,
actually,
the lore.
yeah, and we
Love
made
it.
the rule book completely open to comments.
Yep.
We've already gotten like 60
many comments.
since
luck.
yesterday. But the
Like,
community,
spelling mistakes.
yeah, exactly. The community has already been hugely helpful in the 20 hours
Oh, yeah.
since we put this live. They've helped us fix so many things, and so we are really keen to get community involvement. That's a superpower we have here at Titans. We have this community.
Yeah.
And you all are game experts as well. And their good ideas can come from everywhere. So this isn't our precious little baby where we don't want to hear anything. But just because also we get a suggestion doesn't mean we have to implement it,
Right.
right?
Also true. Yeah.
So the thing is, great ideas can come, and having a community like this and not engaging them,
Yeah.
what an insane
Makes no
thing to do.
sense.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So we will be taking people's ideas on lore and factions
Definitely.
and whatever. And we've already seen some brilliant ideas.
Yes.
Hopefully we can also get the Creature Caster Discord in the comments or
Yeah,
into
for
the
sure.
description
Yeah, yeah.
somewhere. But
Definitely need to get them there.
But you involve them. How do you get people involved in the creation of Judgment?
I mean, we've actually had people from the community. Shout out to Drew, who's done a bunch of writing for us. He's done
Yeah.
a bunch of stories. It is actually for me with the 3 pillars. Like lore is the one for Judgment that I am really trying to develop this year. It requires an incredible amount of resources, and we are happy to hear ideas. We're happy to have people volunteer their time. Like, I mean, that's amazing. And what we always preface that with is like, yeah, we can't necessarily immediately implement something you do, or maybe we're going to reject it. And so you have to be cool with that as well, right?
Sure.
Like, you may put your time in for no reward, but you may put your time in and make a connection in the industry, right? And,
Absolutely.
so like these are the cool things. But I think that's for us speaking about Judgment, that's something we're really looking to develop this year. Is the lore, tell more of the story, and I would say that was, if anything, is probably the biggest weakness, because I think we've nailed the models for Judgment. I'm really happy with them. The gameplay is really good for Judgment. Happy with that, and we just want to tell more of our story as well and explore that, and have that also dictate more of what we do rules-wise, and have that dictate more of what we do in terms of the character creation and the sculpting, and be able to incorporate more of that in there, right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting because, as you mentioned, it kind of comes from that MOBA lineage, right? And you can see, League of Legends has the same strength and then the same adjustments that they're doing, where it's like you have the strength of it is you have all these champions that are very distinct and very interesting, but then how do you tie them together in the narrative?
Yeah.
And so like both of you guys at the same time are like, all right, we need to really like flesh this out and develop it. So, again, it's about playing to the strengths that you have and then growing from there. Super important.
And with all the different factions that you have in Wyldwood, that's very at its most simple level, right? There's something very easy to identify with. And and that was, with Judgment to begin with, again, totally open list building. Yeah. We then added like a god system, so it had like a theme to your list building.
Right.
And now we've also added tribes just recently. I think that's come out 2 weeks ago, maybe 1 week ago, where you can have those factions that are really easy to identify with and make it easy to get into the game, right? So with Wyldwood, you actually don't potentially have to think very much. You're just like, I want to do elves, and you get your elves.
Exactly.
You don't have to be so it's really fast to start. And I think that's a big.
Yeah, we went to the other extreme, right? Where our world is very tiny. It's primordial. It's like still growing. And
very focused.
Exactly. And that's something we're gonna start to expand in the lore and make sure that we do it correctly, because then there's the other challenges that presents. So
and
this
it's
is
a
very
real
much
strength,
the
and then you can go the. Then you can
really
go
the
other
designer
ways.
influence. Like we're just trying to make everything so neat and tidy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're just
Always cutting it down.
The thing is, like, we're allergic to things that aren't like so obviously neat, and so I don't think we would have even considered anything else, right? Like, like a lot of the things.
Well, Sky Pirates is pretty broad, which I think is another reason this is a great switch, right?
Yeah, the thing is, but for that reason, like that could have been anything. It's like we just wanted to start.
Yeah, we wanted to
Right?
start playing, start trying things out.
Yeah, but everything, like considering it, even how you sell it, like what does it look like on a website to get started with this product?
Yeah.
Can you just one click take the faction, and then that box has literally everything you need, and then you can play? Like that stuff seems so crucial to me.
Yeah, for sure.
So it needs to be baked into the very highest level of the game itself.
And I probably speak for all of us here. Like that's a fun part of it. Is like thinking about it, like getting to think, like what does the starter box look like? What would this thing look like? And like
these are probably other pillars that they're outside maybe the game creation.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about launching, then now you're looking at things like logistics, community, and what your product looks like.
This
what
productization is really crucial, and because we
Yeah.
have experience with that, like we care about keeping the number of SKUs small, understanding how we can warehouse and distribute this. What does it look like to actually make a single purchase? What is the price point to get in, right? And so, whatever, we just can't not think of that stuff at the starting point. And so when we're thinking how many models,
that's probably really good to explain to people who are thinking, hey, you want to do this thing. Is like when you're creating your product and you're setting your goals, like understanding these things about, how many SKUs am I going to have? Like that actually really changes potentially some of your game designer or your what is possible for you to do. Right?
The truth is, you can, like, I love thinking about those logistics, and so I bake them into my thought process. But if, let's say you had someone who was just like a raw game designer and just didn't care about that, and they just made something killer, a killer product can blow through all of those constraints. Like, it's crazy to do it that way. Well, who cares? Again, Trench Crusade is a good example.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say
Trench Crusade
example.
was not designed to be the most efficient product, and it was launched in a crazy way and all this sort of stuff. It worked because they just kind of raw pushed it through with their, the product in the right place. So you don't have to do it that way, but you're hurting yourself most of the time.
And I think it's a question of, I think it would have been hard to predict Trench Crusade's success, right? Whereas, I think there are ways to be incredibly successful and then look back and be like, oh yeah, that's why that all worked, right? But if you're trying to be intentional with your path in life instead of just, I hope I get lucky with this,
Right, yeah.
I would recommend do the intentional thing and hope you get lucky, but rather than you know, so there's ways to make your life easier, I think, right?
It's so true.
Predict success a bit better.
I love this question. Real talk, with creature casting judgment, is there any fear of competition or poaching? I'm impressed by the camaraderie. Hey, look, it's a great question. Honestly, no, it's a superpower. The thing is, we're all of the same mind here, which is, one, ultimately, it's a very small industry.
Very small.
And we should all be working together. We're also of the mind of a rising tide helps all ships. And frankly, we've already both benefited on our other projects from doing this. And it's more so like, oh, well, okay, when we're going to conventions or we're running events, how can we pool resources and kind of do things together? The affinity between the games means that there actually is more in common that we can also share. And that's something that we feel very strongly about. And, you know, we're definitely not trying to pick fights with other kids on the schoolyard. It's just it's so unproductive, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's at some point in time a fear that saturation, but like, can you really be worried about that? I mean, that's just
No,
going to
not
happen.
really.
And
Suffering from success.
And yeah, like the only thing that can really happen with that type of attitude is you close doors, and I think that's the bigger mistake, right? So
Exactly.
there's always going to be competition out there.
Yeah.
Why not try and be friends with as much as your competition as you possibly can be, and then now they're allies, right? They're hopefully. Like, I'm going to mention Wyldwood whenever I talk to Judgment people, hopefully when
Creature Caster succeeds if either or both these games succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That is true, yeah.
And so you're
so
seeing...
maybe easier for me.
For you, no, in some ways, it's like, here's a game that's going to be competition, or I could just have a stake in it.
There you go, yeah.
Right?
And I think with the
I mean,
players...
that makes more sense.
With the players as well, like, hopefully it is attracting the same audience, but do you just have to play one game? Like, you know, and I don't think so, right? I think a lot of people are going to buy multiple games that they like the style of, and I think skirmish games are a growing and really sort of like popular way of playing now, because it does allow you to do a bunch of different games and a bunch of different play styles and have a controllable
bringing in
amount
more
of hobby
players, too.
energy.
You're absolutely bringing more players, and I think both of us had this in mind. You know, I always laugh when it's like, this is a thing that's gonna kill Warhammer, and that's the mistake, right? They're trying to pick fights with other people, and they're trying to pick fights with these huge lifestyle games. You know, we're not trying to make a lifestyle game. We're trying to be like, this is the extra game, or this is maybe a game for someone who doesn't play as much. Yeah, sorry.
Wyldwood's my lifestyle.
Yeah, like that's the thing.
feels
We
that
love
way.
all these other games, you know, and I think that's super important. You know, even you talking about the space constraints and thinking about that for Judgment, it shows an acknowledgement and a concern of like, there's all this stuff out here. So how do you make sure that this exists within that and not against it?
Yeah, we wanted to fit down onto a 2-foot space. So when you get the core box and you play your first game, like, we have two different scales of game, right? So we have the 2-foot by 2-foot, which is 3 models, and that was a big part of like, we want people to be able to potentially put this on a coffee table and play.
Yeah,
it,
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And I think making it convenient to play, that's something we've learned a lot about as well. So that's something we want to improve with Judgment, of like, how do we make this more convenient to set up? How do we make it more convenient to transport things? And I'm seeing a lot of that work where you guys have had the resources to do that in advance with Wyldwood, right? And you've got like those dashboards. I'm like, oh, those are really great for gameplay, making gameplay easier. So
exactly.
that's the goal with skirmish games, is that they're easy to set up, easy to play, don't take 6 hours, so you can play multiple games. And maybe someone likes Judgment more, and maybe someone likes Wyldwood more, and you're like, hey, I'll play Judgment with you, you play Wyldwood with me, right? And it's like, that's doable within one gaming session.
Totally.
Whereas, you can't do that with massive games. And so when we talk about the lifestyle, I think, you add a skirmish game on, and then perhaps as you get older, you have more responsibilities and you have like all these other things. All of a sudden, skirmish games does become your lifestyle, right? And I think that's really cool to see that switch.
I'm definitely noticing that myself. Like, I have gamers, they're like, hey, we're going to come over for a game day. I just don't have the energy to set up and play Warhammer. Like, it's a lot. But then we're able to play at these smaller games. And we're able to play multiple sessions. And it's also one of those things where a lot of times someone's like, someone's kid is sick and you have to go home, and it's like, we actually can finish this game in 10 more minutes, and then you can go, sort of thing, where it's like halfway through a Warhammer game, it's like just our whole day's ruined.
And we did think about that with Judgment as well, right? Was one of the things that happens, and I know you guys are struggling with this question a bit, is like Warhammer is one person versus one person, or like maybe you play teams of two, right? And we're like, well, we want it to be 3-player, and we want it to be 4-player, and so having a product that fit those needs from the beginning, we were like, yeah, this rule system is actually going to work really well for multiplayer. Alternating activations, you're not sitting for really long times while 3 other people take their turns, right?
Yeah.
And so these are the things that skirmish games actually work really well for. And then, you know, when your buddy doesn't show up because they had life that got in the way, I can still play with the 3 of us, right?
Exactly.
You know, so or someone extra shows up and you're like, well, it's supposed to be a 2-player game. What are we going to do now, right? So, well, we can still play it because we can play a 3-player game, right?
Yeah,
I love 3-player Judgment. It's so fun.
Yeah,
good.
we've added some. I think that released today or yesterday is the new free-for-all rules as well. So we really put a lot of.
So go check that out.
Yeah.
Pretty rad.
Hopefully we'll be back in a couple months to play some of that. Right?
We got to do it, honestly. Well, that's the other secret goal too, is like wanting to make content for all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't seen, we have played Judgment on it, and I would love to do more. So, we're like kind of already over time. I mean, there's a million things we could talk about, but I think this is the beginning.
The thing is, we're not done yet. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're going to start doing a developer diary as well.
Yeah.
Probably we're aiming for 1 a month from now until forever.
How did that go
Yeah.
by so quickly? I feel we barely scratched the surface.
Frankly, yeah.
And there is a lot of topics to cover. And in our developer diaries, we're actually going to show you the design files. We're going to show you the iterations.
Yep.
We're going to show you how we even break down pricing from factories and how we think about some of the logistics.
Yeah.
We'll show you even how some of our early tabletop simulator
Maybe some of our
prototypes.
Sky Pirates.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. But maybe. We'll see.
I mean, this is now going to become another faction. You guys are
exactly.
aware, like this guy.
That would actually be kind of cool.
I mean,
kind
they
of
just
came
drop
back.
in. Maybe
Yeah.
they like crashed in there.
Yeah.
They're like, what is
Their
this place?
island like falls from the sky.
Oh, man.
I think it'll be dinosaur sky pirates.
Dinosaur
It'll be the
Sky
dinosaur.
Pirates.
Okay.
Yes.
Now it's my favorite idea.
I know. No. All right,
why'd
we're
you
writing
say
the
it?
rules tomorrow.
All right. But yeah, so there's a lot more to come, and
Yeah.
we'll do more of these discussions.
So, of course, if you want to stay up to date on all of that, you can join the Discord. I will put the link in the description again. I'll put both. We have CreatureCaster and Wyldwood. If you just scroll up a little bit in the chat, we'll put it in there. We have it Instagram. It is Wyldwood Game. You can check it out. And again, a lot more stuff coming out. So definitely check that out. And honestly, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen CreatureCaster's amazing work, please do yourself a favor and check it out. Even if you don't play either of our games, they're just amazing models, and that's really where it all comes from.
And we have doing Trench Crusade too. So we're
Yeah,
going to be
right.
adding the Wyldwood channel to our Discord. So there's going to be lots of things on CreatureCast. We have our fingers in many pies because diversification has become a big part of what I want to do. So
And that's like the most fun way to do it, anyways. You know, it's not only just smart, but it's also the most fun thing. So, first of all, I want to thank you guys for coming on, chatting. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you guys especially, but you too.
Thanks.
And thank you all for being part of this discussion. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, we're going to have a live stream game of 40K today, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're actually going to probably grab some food and set up for that right away. And then tomorrow, Thursdays, of course, it's Trench Crusade Day, so we're releasing our next episode, episode 4 of Trench Crusade. This is Hell's Shells. It's a really fun episode. And we'll have the post-game afterwards, which is going to be our campaign progression, another just unhinged mini-game for us to play in that. And then Saturday, we'll be back, of course, with a live show, first time in a few weeks, because it's a double pre-order day, Black Templars, Grey Knights, and we said, we just kind of want to spend the day hanging out with you guys, playing games, talking about the new books. So tune in for that. There is so much more to come on the channel. With that, folks, we love you, appreciate you, and we'll catch you all next time on the Tabletop. Bye.
Bye.